Notorious. All right. So as the sun has gone down, it is now the 24th of Elul, which makes it Erev Maaseh Bereshit. And Rabbi Eliezer taught in Pesikta de Rav Kahana, the world was created on the 25th of Elul. This implies that Adam was created on Rosh Hashanah. So when I thought about when we would do this learning together, it was really important that we learn together on the 25th of Elul, but then there was other programming on our calendar. So now we are learning adjacent to the 25th of Elul. And so this, or actually Wednesday, Tuesday night and Wednesday is the creation of the world. Like, wow. And we, of course, we celebrate Rosh Hashanah, the creation of humanity, but taking some time to really celebrate the 25th of Elul, the creation of our world. And Eben quoted the Ben Ish Chai in his book, Lashon HaChamim, who shared some rituals that we can observe for the 25th of Elul that I want to offer to you as we reclaim this day and reclaim creation as a part of our Rosh Hashanah celebration. We'll talk about in a little bit how we focus very much on Yom Hadin, on the judgment aspect of Rosh Hashanah, but there's also a creation aspect of it as well. So some rituals that you can partake in are immersion in a mikveh, ritual bath, submerging 6 times to reflect the 6 days of creation. And I can't think of a better place to do this than Mayim Chaim, right? Than the waters of life. To have meals with bread and meat, if you eat meat, both night and during the day, to say hamotzi and to appreciate the creation that goes into our food cycles, saying the brachot over the food with intentions, like deep intention, and eating sweet things to really appreciate the cycle of and the bounty that we receive from our creation, from earth. Giving tzedakah, always recommended, and also lighting 5 candles. And so this would be tomorrow night, as the sun sets tomorrow night, Tuesday night, to light 5 candles. And those 5 candles correspond to the 5 divine lights of Chesed, the Ben Ish Chai says. And that's based on the 5 mentions of the word light, of the word or, in the first day of creation story. And creation's understood as God's primordial act of love. As it says, the world is established upon love. That was our song a couple of years ago. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. And Chesed is associated with the first day of creation, associated with light, symbolized by light, which is good. And so then, part of how we share that light on the day is by giving tzedakah to bring light to other people's lives. So I invite you to partake in any of those that you find meaningful. And there's one last one, which is a ritual for the entire week from tomorrow night up until Rosh Hashanah, which is reading about each day of creation on the day of creation. So tomorrow night, Wednesday, reading about the first day of creation, and it was good. Then the next day, reading about the second day of creation, and it was good twice, and so on until we get to Rosh Hashanah, and we really ground ourselves in the creative aspect of this holiday. So, all right, now let's turn to why we're here. So this is the last of 3 sessions on Cheshbon HaNefesh. And it's been wonderful getting to learn with other teachers, with my teachers, with Judith and with Reb Moshe. And so I just want to offer a little bit about this process of cheshbon hanefesh that we are engaging in right now. So in Numbers, let me share my screen. Just. Screen. Okay. So we're in Numbers chapter 21. We're wandering in the Midbar, verse 27. And it says, Al ken yomru hamoshlim ba'u cheshbon tibane v'tichonen ir sichon. Therefore, the bards would recite, come to Cheshbon, firmly built and well-founded is Sichon's city. So the Talmud in Bava Batra says that moshlim, this word right here, which is translated as bards, singing people, really refers to those who rule moshlim over their passions. Come to accounting, as cheshbon is the name of the city, but also we're talking about cheshbon hanefesh. Let us take account of the world. And the cheshbon hanefesh is that accounting of our souls. So the Talmud is saying, we think this is saying one thing, but it's also offering us insight into this work that we're doing. The moshlim, the ones who are able to rule over their passions, how do they do such a thing? They come to cheshbon. They do it, they come to accounting. They do it through accounting, through cheshbon, this process that we're in right now. And just a little bit more on this topic. This means that there is a particular accounting that of each person regarding all the specific ways the evil urge, the Yetzer Hara, seeks to seduce them. This can refer to moral qualities or improper passions or simply to dark desires. But there's also something called account of the world, an overview that takes in a full sense of the world's essence beyond ourselves. Each person is a miniature world. We are an olam katan, a miniature world. On this basis, we have to ask whether each of us has fulfilled our purpose and done our task in the world as a whole. Are we holding up our end of the bargain? Are we playing our role on this team that we're all on? The only ones who can even approach this task are those who rule over their passions. Others are too easily bribed by their own desires and passions, and thus are not able to get down to the real work of taking honest account of themselves. Only those who can achieve self-mastery can see things as they really are. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And so what really struck me here is this idea of self-mastery. Only those of us that can achieve self-mastery are able to see things as they really are. What does that mean? Basically, it just means mastery of ourself. And I shouldn't say just, this is like the hardest work that there is for us to do, to master the ego, the need to be in control, the need to have control, the need to feel like we're in charge. And I think, at least in my experience, in the last 3 years, however long we've had COVID, it's become abundantly clear that we're not in charge. We're not in charge. We were made to surrender to what was going on, but we're not in control. We have this sense that we need to be in control, but there is something greater that's running the show. And that's my personal feeling about it, my personal theology. That's something that I call God, and we're going to get into what our different philosophies and theologies are tonight. I'm very excited to have this conversation. But mastery of the self. So I want to pull up another text that sends this same message for us from, speaking of creation, very soon after the creation of the world. This is the story of Cain and Hevel. And we remember that Cain and Hevel, well, after they were kicked out, after Adam and Chava were created and fell to temptation and were kicked out of the garden and had to live a life of toil and working and everything that we're dealing with now. Cain and Hevel came along and they were brothers. And Hevel brought an offering to God. Cain also brought an offering to God. Hevel's was accepted, Cain's wasn't. Why? Nobody knows. And I always say that's one of the first lessons we learn in the Torah. Life isn't fair. No one knows why his offering was accepted. Moreover, at least according to the pshat of the text. So Cain is feeling feelings, very upset. I'm going to move you over here because I'm looking to the side. I can look right at you now. Cain is feeling anger, upset, jealousy, all of the very real human emotions that we experience when we feel we've been shafted or slighted or what have you. And so God comes to offer this very cryptic advice to Cain to say, why are you distressed? Why is your face fallen? Right? And God can recognize these musings. And so God says, Hello, im tetiv se'et, ve'im lo tetiv lapetach chatat rovetz, ve'elecha teshukato, ve'ata timshol bo. But you can control it. So God says, surely if you do right, im tetiv, and I love the word tetiv with the root tov, if you cause goodness, im tetiv, you cause goodness, then se'et, there will be uplift. You will soar, you will have, your head will be held high. V'im lo tetiv, if you do not cause goodness, lapetach chatat rovetz. Now we're familiar with the word chet from this season, which is often translated as sin, transgression. But we'll remember that chet comes from the archery term of missing the mark, literally missing the mark, to take and to aim and to miss the mark. So what is this saying? Lapetach chatat rovetz. At the entrance of what? Going astray, getting off of the path, is crouching, is lurking, is waiting. And so what is this? Petach? Just that thought, right? Because all Cain has right now is a thought. That's all he has. And so in this instance, God is saying, watch that thought. Because the thought is the beginning. It's the petach. La petach chatat rovetz. It's waiting right there to take you astray. As we know, the goal is to be yashar, to be straight. And if we shoot the arrow, we hit the target, that's yashar, that's straight. But when we chet, we miss the mark. Ve'alecha teshukato, right? There's that pull, the pull of gravity to pull off course. It's very hard to shoot an arrow straight. It's very hard to do the right thing every single moment, every single decision. And like the force is to pull us off. Ve'ata timshol bo, but you can be its master. And we see this word, the same word that we had that was translated back in Bamidbar as the bards, and then the Talmud comes to teach us, and no, it doesn't mean the bards there. It actually means the moshlim, those who are able to control their passions. Again, we have the message that we can be master over the things that are trying to master us. And in my experience, and the experience of others that I have talked to, it's this need to control. It's this need to be in charge. That is like that ego, the I am, that is the thing that needs to be mastered to keep us in a place of humility and a place of service and the path of yashar. the path of straightness and uprightness. So I want to offer this piece from a book that I absolutely love, and I thought I had in my office, but I don't have in my office to show you. But it's called Recovery by Rami Shapiro. Let me just remember what the tagline is in case you're interested. Recovery, Rami Shapiro. It's called Recovery, the Sacred Arts. And it's about the 12 steps. And for those of you that know me, I love the 12 steps. I think they are a great expansion on Rambam's steps of Teshuvah. And as soon as I read through the 12 steps and got to know them, I said, oh my goodness, this is what Rambam was talking about. This is so clear to me. So I went and found other books on the topic, and Rabbi Rami Shapiro wrote this fantastic book about the 12 steps as a spiritual practice. And, he's in his book, he says, like, the 12 steps are for absolutely everyone. Why? Because he quotes the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, where the author says, first of all, we had to quit playing God. And so Rami Shapiro says, here's the heart of 12-step recovery. Quit playing God. 12-step recovery is about freeing yourself from playing God. And he goes on to say, the real disease from which almost all of us suffer is the disease of playing God, of thinking we are or should be in control of what happens to us in life. And wow, yes. How many times do we feel like this should not have happened? Well, why not? There are no guarantees in this world. It's just like Cain and Hevel. It's not always fair. I should be able to do this. I should know this. I can. Nope. That's not the deal that we signed up for when we came down to this earth plane. He continues, 3 premises underlie this book. We're only going to look at 2 of them. Well, we're not going to look at any of them. I'm just going to share with you 2 of them. First, he says, it's the obsessive quest for control rather than the compulsive use of a specific substance or behavior that defines an addict. And in running that by addicts that I have encountered, that seems to be the case, this need for control. And he says, second, most of us are addicts seeking to play God by trying to control our lives and the lives of those who touch ours. And so in order to make his message more universal is to say that, it's not so much the substance, right? People are addicted to Netflix, food, hard drugs, alcohol, social media. All of these things come into our lives to help us, I don't know if it's helping us, give us a sense of control, that we are in charge. We can post Instagram pictures like I'm on vacation, I'm having the best time, and life is just happening to us, and we want to feel like we're in charge of these outcomes. So in short, all of this is to say, we are not God. We are not God. Rosh Hashanah is about turning control back over to the divine. The pomp of the day is based on an ancient Babylonian coronation ceremony, which I think is fascinating. If you've never read the book Keter and read about, there's a chapter, the heavenly coronation and coronation in Kedusha, the first 2 chapters. It's very fascinating to talk. It talks about the origins of all of our Rosh Hashanah pageantry. And it's very fascinating because, with the Queen's passing, peace be upon her, we will be having an actual coronation very soon, and can draw those comparisons from what we're doing on Rosh Hashanah to what's happening with actual coronation ceremonies, and seeing how those things join up. And just a word about what some of those look like, because we have taken some of the things from our coronation from Rosh Hashanah and brought them into our every week and every day practice. So for instance, Torah service, there's different nuschaot of all of the services, the sounds of all of the services, but the sound of Torah service is actually the sound of the high holidays, and we bring it through every week. Every Shabbat, there's a different sound for weekday Torah service, but so every Shabbat we carry through this ta'am, this taste of the high holidays. And just like with a coronation, and just like with a sovereign, who's carried along and escorted. I was watching with my mom today a little bit of the funeral, right? Like there's people marching along with her casket. There's people that would carry the sovereign on their shoulders. And that's what we do with the Torah, right? We march around with the Torah. It's the same energy. We reach out and we kiss the Torah in the same way that people reach out and blow kisses to the sovereigns. But the difference is that, we are saying, our sovereign is not on this plane. Our sovereign is not of this plane. It's a very different message. We are crowning. What are we crowning? I guess that's our question that we're going to explore very shortly. So like I said, we're not God. Rav Claudia will not be putting crowns on any of our heads on Rosh Hashanah. The day comes to humble us. But our tradition teaches us, in order to experience the power, we have to be as light and as open and as free of this worldly baggage as possible, to really be in this spiritual place of encounter. And like, really, we start this work. Well, it's like, how far back do you want to go? Rabbi Alan Liu, in his book, This Is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared, that book starts on Tisha B'Av, right? No, actually it starts on the 17th of Tammuz, right? When the walls of Jerusalem were first breached. And then he takes it through and how we're preparing all through then. But I was talking with Reb Moshe the other day, and he's like, well, it really starts, the high holiday season really starts on Shavuot, so like, we are doing this work for a good long time to really be moshlim, to be masters of ourself, of our ego, to humble ourselves, to get rid of all of the things that build up. And I love our tradition because twice a year we're called to do this, to get rid of the stuff that builds up, right? We do it during the Omer and bit by bit, and we do it now during this season. And there's 49 days in both. I have a book, it's 60 days, depending on from where you start counting. But I have a book of a 49-day Omer counter where you count up during the Omer and down during this season of Teshuvah, and a book for Kavanot of the 60 days if you want 11 more days of Teshuvah. So we do this work of cheshbon and nefesh to make ourselves as light as possible. And there's no particular order, right? Some people choose, we've got our 3 parts, right? Because against the 3 types of transgressions that exist in the world, there's Bein Adam la'atzmo, between a person and ourselves, Bein Adam lechavero, between a person and other people, and Bein Adam lemakom, between a person and God, however we understand God. And there's just no right order for how to do this cheshbon, for how to do this accounting, and how to ultimately do the teshuvah work that's related to them all. So some people want to get right with themselves and do the self work first, and then encounter God. And then when they're feeling secure in that, then go and encounter others. Or first, some people want to clarify their relationship with the divine, however they understand it, and then reach out to other people and then bring all of that back into themselves. There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong way. And really, they're all connected. So at TBZ this year, right, we started with Reb Moshe, who taught us Bein Adam la'atzmo, between a person and themselves. And we explored together, looking into our soul and acknowledging the realities that we see there. And then with Judith, You helped us to explore what it means to do an accounting of our transgressions and to be forced into that, really, the transgressions being Adam lechavero, between ourselves and others. And what's so very true, what was very clear from your session and also from our Moshe's session, is that the truth is that, like, when we do both of those, we find God there, right? We find that we're all, even when we're doing teshuva and a cheshbon about other people, there's God there. When we're doing it between ourselves, we find God there. So the question is, but what God, right? Because God itself is just a placeholder in my theology. And by all means, you can disagree with me. And certainly we all have our own theologies. I promise I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to sell you on my theology. But the question is, what God? The God of our understanding, however it is that we come to understand God. And I believe it's a placeholder, the word God, for an experience. For an experience, because we all have different experiences of the divine. We come from different places. We've got different stories, different family histories, different lives, ways that we've reached out to the divine, ways that the divine has reached back. Perhaps we've reached out and felt like nothing reached back. We all have different experiences. And that's what we're supposed to be tapping into, I believe. So our third session tonight, which I can't believe is already almost halfway over, is to explore Bein Adam leMakom, how we do a cheshbon, an accounting between ourselves and makom, the place. And even there, think there are hundreds of names for the divine that the rabbis could have chosen to say, right? Bein Adam le Adonai, right? Like Bein Adam le anything, le makom. So I'm curious to hear from you. The makom means place, right? Bein Adam, between us and the place. And I'm curious to hear from you what even the word place brings up for you. When you think of God as place, what does that do for you? And is there a particular place that you think of when you think of God, however you understand God?
So Bill, my husband, is sitting next to me, and as soon as you asked that question, he whispered, actually, a place in my heart.
Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's also a kind of metaphor. I mean, what does it mean, a place in one's heart?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it does speak to this idea that what we are looking inward, but also there's a sense that we're reaching for something, we're longing for something.
Yeah.
Absolutely, my love.
I love that, and I feel that when I feel connected with this God thing, I feel like it's like the air I breathe. It's everywhere. but then it comes back to what we were singing at the beginning. Like it's when I really, really mean it, when I really, really mean to be close and desire it, to have that, I guess, ratzon, that I feel God is as active in me and outside of me and holding me and when I lose that, I feel very bereft and lost.
Hmm. Yeah. I think, what you've all said is so so right on, in that, we're looking and we're yearning for something external that seems to be rooted right within us. Right. It's always there and present, and I feel it. And that when we're not able to feel it, and I think we're not able to feel it, I mean, I should speak about my own experience. I'm not able to feel it when I'm trying to wrest control from the world, when I'm trying to be in charge. And then I get scared because I don't know what's going on, because I'm not really in charge. And then I feel alone. But it's those times when I'm able to sit and feel embraced. I think, Annie, you mentioned feeling held, that I'm able to connect and to tap in. Robbie, did you want to say something?
I think I feel God in natural phenomena and in nature, when I'm in the woods or at the ocean or something that is awesome.
Mhm.
I have my most connection, and I'm associating to an incident with our oldest grandchild when we were making challah one Friday afternoon, and he was kneading the dough. And when the dough started to rise, he looked up startled and he said, "Hashem is there in the dough." And that sense of that yeast was making him feel that. I've always loved.
That's great. That's amazing. That's it.
Mhm.
These your grandson's moment and your moment in nature. You said it's awesome, right? And that's what these days are. Yamim noraim. They are the awesome days. We've cheapened that word. I'm sorry. I think my generation did that. But we've cheapened the word awesome,
Mhm.
and we've taken away the awe, the
Mhm.
wonder. And, Ref Claudia and I have been talking a lot about Rosh Hashanah as Yom HaZikaron. And what is it that we're being called on to remember? And in addition to the where is God question that, I think we're being called on to remember, both in our bodies and externally, it's the awe. It's these feelings that bring us awe, because that's what brings us closer to the divine, that sense of awe. And where we feel it, where it sits in our bodies, the people that give us awe, that's what we're being called on to remember. Yeah, Bennett.
Yeah, I'm struck. Thank you for presenting these texts. The Cain and Abel story, the play on the word se'et, to carry, to lift up, or to bear. Cain says afterwards, "I cannot. burden is too hard to bear. And this root of Sept seems to be to carry, to lift up, and to forgive. And it's at what point, so part of what we need God for, and I guess Christianity probably really super specialized in this, part of what we need God for when it is really too hard to bear for us, that we can't no say it, and we need God to no say our own, to forgive the sins. So part of the tension of being human, or part of the tension, let's say, that I feel as a human, is what can I bear of, say, guilt, responsibility, and shame? That's, mine to bear. And what is too much for me to bear, that I need somebody or something or some way to help carry it. Can't do it all by myself. But this connects also with another thought about, you just said about Yom HaZikaron. What are we supposed to remember? I think for me, a very important part of connecting with the divine on Rosh Hashanah is the music, a particular nigun. And it's there that I feel a connection with something beyond me in that special Rosh Hashanah nigun. That's a divine melody, whoever invented it.
Yes. It's so true. I don't know if you were at, I don't think you were at the Rosh Hashanah prep, high holiday prep Motzei Shabbat thing that we had when was that? I think, that was just last week. But Noah, we started with that nigun, and, it just went through the room. That's the sound of the holiday season. Like, here we are. It is powerful. It is very, very powerful. I want to share, I love books. And it's interesting because during COVID, I've been teaching most of the time online, and all of my books are here in my office. But, Bennett, based on what you just said, I think you would really enjoy this book. It's called Sin, A History by Gary Anderson. And it is fascinating. It's a fascinating book that talks about exactly what you were saying about the wordplay and how in our high holiday, well, it's actually, I think it's written by a priest, but all of the texts that he's drawing on are in our high holiday liturgy. So it's on my high holiday shelf. But how we have these images of the divine as doing exactly that, of lifting the burden off of us. And this directly connects to what we're saying, because we're the ones who take the burden on ourselves, because we're thinking that we're supposed to be in charge, we're supposed to bear it all. And this goes back for me to this connection and what Annie was saying, to this embrace. I'm not in charge. I am not the one. There's what I can control, and for that we have Ben Adam cheshbon hanefesh ben Adam lechavero. Oops, those are my mistakes. Let me reach out to other people. Ben Adam la'atzmi. Oy, this is where I've been taking too much on myself, where I've been not being honest with myself, living my authentic life. And then Ben Adam lamakom. For me, I think, oh, oops, sorry, God, that was your lane. I was trying to drive in your lane. Which is why the tagline for this shiur, this session, is, if God is your co-pilot, you need to switch seats. Let's switch seats. And then we'll feel less of the burden and more of the connection. Take me where I'm supposed to go. I'm happy to follow, because I don't have the map. I don't have the vision. And there was one more thing that you said that I wanted to, it was about Kol Nidre. It was about Kol Nidre, but I don't know what I did with the Kol Nidre book. I'm sure you'll hear it on the high holidays at some point. So we've got about 15 minutes, which is great. Then we can take some time to reflect for ourselves, and then share back out. So my goal for us tonight is really just this. We're not, the work is ours as individuals to do. I'm just hoping to offer you a little snippet to take away from and to masticate on as we go through this season. But hopefully for us to walk away with an idea of what God means for us, because this work that we're doing is celebrating, saying, this is what I bow down to, right? Like, this is the center of my life. My life is founded on this, right? And everyone has something, right, that their life is founded on, from where they take direction, from where they get instruction. And these are, words for Torah, and parent is the same word as Torah, Horim, and Torah is guidance. And these are things that in our tradition we attribute to God, but we all need guidance. We all need instruction. So we get it from somewhere. So we need to be clear about what it is. And so, something about, reclaiming the 25th of Elul, which is tomorrow night, and Wednesday, is reclaiming this creation aspect of Rosh Hashanah. And as I said before, we get very absorbed in the Yom Hadin aspect of it, the judgment. And I think for some people that's really a barrier, because the idea of God as judge, and a lot of people were raised with a vengeful God, a God that's going to judge them, and that, and people don't always feel, may not feel that it's authentically Jewish to have this God of love, this God of embrace, this God that cares, God that shows up in our hearts, God that shows up in our bodies, that shows up in the expanses and in the breezes and all of that, because that's not always the image of God that we see on the high holidays. That's not always the image of God that's in our machzorim. So I'm inviting us tonight to, as I said, take a few moments to clarify, to record your own thoughts. And, if you have a separate piece of paper that you could write on, and something that you could bring with you and tuck into your machzor, or that you can keep in your talit bag, something that you can use to remember on Yom HaZikaron, to be intentional about remembering. And like I said, I don't know if I said this, I'm not God, so I'm not judging. I'm not here to convert anyone. I'm just opening space for us to think together about what we believe and how we think and what we are crowning together on Rosh Hashanah. So I'm going to put on a little music for us. Maybe I'll do the Karov again, and another song that we'll be leaning into these holidays. And then we'll take a few moments to share out.
Hashem יקראו באמת. Hayam ba-da-dee-dayam, ba-dee-day, dum-dee-day-do. Hayam ba-da-dee-day, dum-dee-day, da-dee-day-do. Hayam ba-da-dee-dum, dee-dum, 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 dee-day-do. Hayam ba-da-dee-day, dum-dee-day, da-dee-day-do. Karov Hashem Lecho Korah Lechol Hashem יקראו באמת. קרוב השם לכל קורח לכל השם יקראו באמת. Hayam ba-da-dee-day, dum-dee-day, dum-dee-day-do. Hayam ba-da-dee-day, dum-dee-day, da-dee-day-do. Hayam ba-da-dee-dum, dee-dum, 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 dee-day-do. Hayam ba-da-dee-day, hum-da-dee-day, hay-ya-bo, hay-ya-bo, hay-ya, ya-dum-dee-da-do, hay-ho, hay-ya, hay-da-da-da-do, hay-ya-yo, hay-yo, ha-dum-dee-da-do, hay-yo, hay-yo, hay-yam-bay, hay-ya-yo, hay-ya, ya-dum-dee-da-do, hay-ho, hay-ya, hay-da-da-da-do, hay-ya-yo, hay-ya, ya-dum-dee-da-do, hay-yo, hay-yo, hay-yam-bay, hay-yo. Hayam ba-da-dee-day, dum-dee-day, da-da-dee-day-do. Hayam ba-da-dee-day, dum-dee-day, da-dee-day-do.
So, is there one who would like to share anything that came up, came out, a new thought, something that they'd like to cling to? We talk about dveikut, clinging, something that they want to cling to, an idea this season of Yamim Noraim, of our awesome days. And I'll read out also what Muriel put in the chat, which was beautiful. She wrote, and if you didn't see, Muriel is recovering from a concussion. And so she's not supposed to have screen time, which is why her camera is off. But Muriel wrote, what I feel when in some precious few moments is encountering the infinitely sacred and leaving the ordinary. For myself, I wrote to the prompt. I guess I also needed a prompt. I wrote that to the question of where is Hamakom? Where is God? God is in my childhood. God is in my simple self, my needing self, my dependent self. That's for me where I go to meet God.
I'm holding on to this idea, this feeling that God is in the embrace of me,
Mm.
when I feel embraced by God.
Mhm. I think a number of people hold that kavanah when they are putting on a talit and when they are staying wrapped in the talit. It's like a physical embrace of the divine. And also the sukkah, as we're coming into as well, to feel the surround of divinity.
It's also the music that surrounds and holds both.
Yeah. Yeah. Being bathed in the sound, it's true. And, that was definitely something that we noticed so starkly in 2020 when it was, just a few of us in the sanctuary. We didn't have that embrace of voices. So it's absolutely true, Bill, like to be immersed in the sound. It's, yeah, God is in the sound.
For this past hour, I've been remembering a midrash that seems to think about this idea of calling God Hamakom, the place. I've always been puzzled by, of all the different names for God, this one, which is the rabbis seem to use a lot, but it feels puzzling to me in many ways. So the midrash, if I remember it correctly, is that the world is in the place, but the place is not limited to the world.
The world is in the place. The place is not limited to the world.
It's a larger reality.
Yeah. It's just a part. It feels very much like what we say in the Kedusha. That who can know God? God is in God's place, but who can know where that is?
Right.
Well, right. It's also Baruch Kavod Hashem Mim Komo, that somehow God is reaching out from God's place.
Yeah. wherever that may be.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our time. I have thoroughly enjoyed sitting in this space, in this makom with you, and diving into the experience of the divine. And as we move towards our high holiday celebration, I'm looking forward to sharing space with you, to lifting voices together with you, to just remembering together with you. And I wish you a Shana Tova, a good new year, a Shinui Tova, a good change, whatever that means for you in this coming year. And yeah, Bennett, you want to say something?
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Thank you so much, Rav Tiferet.
My pleasure.
Yes,
My
thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Mm.
Sure. Lila Tov.
Tov.
Oh.
Bye, Muriel.